So I'm the product manager for reactions, and what goal would I set for the team? First, before we even get started, I want to understand what reaction is in more detail, and then we'll lay out a structure to answer the question. So just thinking through reactions, that's the feature where instead of liking a piece of content, I can respond with a kind of any number of fixed emotions. First thing that comes to mind, and I want to make sure to acknowledge, is reactions are used across Facebook. Most prominently, you can react to posts, but you can react to comments. I believe you can on stories as well, and there may be other places, but it's kind of a core component that's sprinkled throughout Facebook, and I want to be thoughtful about that. So thinking about how we might approach this, the first thing I want to cover is mission, Facebook mission, and the goal of this product within that mission. Second, I want to talk about metrics, just some candidate metrics that could be helpful for us. And then we'll prioritize the right one, and then we'll have our hero metric for the team. All right, so thinking first about the mission of Facebook is to build community and help people become closer to each other. It seems very clear that reactions fits really neatly in that mission. And if I were to kind of pick a goal that I would rally the team with, a plain text goal, it would be something along the lines of help people become closer to each other by making the internet more expressive, or by helping them be more expressive. So help people become closer to each other by helping them be more expressive. I think that really summarizes what we're trying to do with reactions, and I think having this goal will really help us down the line as we think about the metrics for our product. Since we're talking about metrics, let's get there right away. I mean, the obvious kind of metric right off the bat is kind of number of reactions per post. But, to bring it a bit more sophistication here, I want to think about the two sides of reactions as first-party citizens. So both the people reacting and submitting reactions, but also, really importantly, the people consuming them, because it needs to work for them too, not just for the people submitting reactions. So thinking about that, for the people submitting reactions, one thing that comes to mind is I bet a lot of people don't know it even exists at all, or I've never used it. So let's maybe start by tracking that. Percent of users who have used reactions ever at all over a time period, like percent of Facebook users that have active Facebook users that have used reactions at all over that period. I bet that number is pretty high, and there's probably some opportunity for us there. Moving a little down the funnel, I'd love to see maybe the percent of time people use like versus some of the other reactions, because like is sort of the default. So how often do people go out of their way to express a more subtle emotion, I think is a helpful guide there to how expressive people are trying to be. There's an interesting thought as well, which is reactions may reduce comments or certainly change the things people comment. So I'd actually also measure comments on posts. It's an interesting thought. Let's see, what else seems relevant here on the author side? Maybe times people change their reaction, because it's possible to go in and then change it later. If it feels like that would give us some indication if it feels kind of burdensome or you're on the record for something you want to go back on. I don't know how much I'd pay attention to that, but certainly something to look into as a curiosity to inform our thinking. Now, thinking on the other side, the reader side, we want reactions that cause people to spend more time on Facebook, or certainly engage with content more and make it richer. If it's more expressive, I'd expect people engage with it more. So all flavors of engagement on content. So certainly we'd love to see more views to content that has reactions. We'd love to see more shares. We'd love to see more, I mean, this is kind of circular, but that content with reactions itself gets more reaction. Maybe a little difficult to measure. And I'll bring up comments as well. We'd like to see more comments and things with reactions. That goes in conflict with the earlier hypothesis. Maybe reactions is a substitute to comments. But I also, in the kind of expressing way, but I also think when you consume content that has a reaction, you're more likely to yourself either react or then post a comment. So I'm not sure how these two will net out, but certainly that's something I'd look at as the product manager for this product. Yeah, and then kind of looking at all of these, I think we have a whole series of interesting metrics here spread across the board. And to me, it all seems like it tiers back up to, do people use Facebook more because of reactions? And, reactions sprinkle throughout the product. Fundamentally, I think if it's more expressive, people will use it more. So this, I think all of these smaller metrics really tier up to daily active users, DAUs. Do people come back to Facebook? Do they move from being weekly active users to daily actives? Do they increase their frequency? Are there more people join because it's a more expressive and happier place? Or certainly more expressive. I mean, more expressive doesn't mean happier, but more expressive. I think that's our strongest North Star that brings everything together and gives us the best information towards our goal. So I would pick here DAUs as our hero metric. And maybe one concern you might have here is, how can we assume DAUs of Facebook entirely when we're such a small part of it? How do we know our contribution? And what I would propose is that every change we make, say we want to add new reactions or things like that, we'll run an A/B test, and our core guiding principle will be, does it increase DAUs? Every time we run this A/B test. And sometimes we may need to run it for a good amount of time to account for novelty effects and so on. But fundamentally, this is our guiding principle, DAUs. And day to day, I would maybe use more of those secondary metrics to see where things are. But when push comes to shove, it'll be about global DAUs. This is especially important because our product is going to affect other products. If we just steal DAUs from somewhere else, but our product is doing great, I wouldn't feel happy about that. So I really want to measure the holistic outcome as my guiding principle. Now I want to address some other drawbacks of that. How might this metric increase, but that could ultimately be bad to our goal? And I feel pretty confident this is the right goal, but I certainly see one thing that I think could be problematic, which is generally kind of in the bucket of integrity. I think if we encourage a lot of spam, or if kind of the opposite, we don't pay a lot of attention to spam because we have this metric that we're trying to drive DAUs and it helps artificially inflate that, or generally like spurious likes that are not really substantive or reactions, that could be bad for our product. I don't think there's an enormous amount of risk here, but in every product, I want to make sure that we're not just driving DAUs for the sake of DAUs, but people feel happy and feel like it's time well spent on the product, and then certainly very topical. So to address that, I would propose we also run a survey with our users. So we survey Facebook users periodically, a very small subset, and we ask them the goal we set out at the beginning. Do you feel that on a scale of 1 to 10, how much do you feel like Facebook is an expressive place? And we do that periodically, and we can even do it for A/B tests. Say we have new reactions, we can see whether it moves this number, and use that as a secondary thing to pay attention to in conjunction with DAUs, to make sure that the DAUs we're getting are really quality DAUs from people that are engaged, and we feel like we're really driving our mission.